کنفرانس بین المللی ایران آزاد قیام برای تغییر رژیم 29 ژوئن 2018.
L'une des préoccupations les plus importantes de la société humaine actuelle est la paix et la démocratie. Par conséquent, nous devons nous unir contre les facteurs qui menacent ces idéaux humains et avancer ensemble pour parvenir à un monde meilleur. Dans notre village planétaire, où nous rapprochons plus que jamais les gens les uns des autres, il n'y a pas de place pour la violence, le terrorisme et le sectarisme. Les mollahs qui gouvernent l'Iran, en répandant le sectarisme et la haine entre les religions et les nations, tentent de faire la guerre et tentent de faire couler le sang dans le monde. La voie de la paix et de la liberté, la voie de la démocratie et de l'égalité des droits et la voie d'un Iran non nucléaire font partie du programme décennal de la présidente Mariam Rajavi pour l'avenir de l'Iran, qui bénéficie d'un large soutien international. Le régime iranien, utilisant la répression à l'intérieur et à l'exportation du terrorisme en dehors de l'Iran, a jusqu'ici pu garder la nation iranienne en otage. Cependant, avec le grand soulèvement du peuple iranien à la fin de 2017, il n'a plus de légitimité devant le peuple et ces soulèvements ont pris diverses formes, telles que de grèves et de manifestations qui se poursuivent jusqu'à ce jour. Jour après jour, le régime perd son pouvoir répressif contre la colère des protestants iraniens. Aujourd'hui, la communauté internationale et le peuple iranien se sont réunis dans un seul but, le renversement du fascisme religieux en Iran, et cette question importante sera sûrement accomplie avec notre soutien et les efforts du peuple iranien. Je vous remercie beaucoup.
Well, first of all, Mr. Chairman, or both Chairmen and honourable colleagues, it's a pleasure to be here again and to try and speak up for the people of Iran in their struggle. And what are they really seeking? They're seeking a very, very simple thing that all of us, at one time or other in our lives, have taken for granted: the democratic rule of law, the protection of the law, the integral right to vote in a free and democratic election. Why is that too much for people to ask for? Why does it seem to be so unacceptable in some countries, like Iran, that people can be denied that privilege and that right? Sorry, I don't believe it is a privilege. It's the right of every human being to be able to, in some way or other, influence their future by the way in which they choose to democratically elect governments. We have to remember the struggle that this organisation has been through. When I was elected for the second time to the British Parliament in '97, it wasn't long after being elected on that occasion that I met some of the people who are here today. And they were asking me to take up their cause in the British Parliament along with other colleagues, and other colleagues did. But I remember getting a very brisk response from the Foreign Office saying, Mr. Hancock, we would remind you that these people are very dangerous people and you should be very cautious about their actions and what you're doing and saying on their behalf. Now that's something this organisation has had to live with. Those accusations, those forced denunciations by governments that we all came to accept or be part of in one way or another. And it just isn't good enough that that has persisted for such a long time. I don't know how this organisation has had the strength to continue to fight as hard as they have done to try and convince the rest of Europe and the rest of the world that the people in Iran deserve more than 2 minutes on a news item and people being worried for a few minutes afterwards. When I worked at the BBC, my boss used to tell me, whatever you do, remember, there's 2 minutes to say it and the rest of the time to forget it. And that's what it was about when you were putting news items together. You were never really convinced that you were actually spreading the word and making it clear to people of the dangers of a 2-minute clip on a news program and the forgotten cause that you were trying to indicate. So I want us all to say to the politicians who we know and who we've worked with, like me, in the past, but still have friends who are still in Parliament in the UK, to say to them, it's time for politicians to start listening. They have always pretended to hear, but none of them are listening to what's being said. And the time has come for that to be put aside, and for us all to say, it's now time for us to actually make the demands that these people are making really be heard, and for our governments to get behind the people of Iran. It's time also for reasonable people to stop being too reasonable. That's been the problem. It's this manifestation that if you're reasonable enough, in time it will come. But we're 20 years too late. The reasonableness should have gone out the window 20 years ago. And the West and the rest of the world should have been demanding that these people should have the rights that we take for granted. So I hope that we can now have a clear message coming from today's event here and tomorrow, but most importantly, on the weeks and months, hopefully not years afterwards, that we send a true message to the people of Iran. You are not alone. Your voice is being heard, and there are people who are prepared to actually listen to what you're saying and to give you the support. And maybe that will give the strength to those people to continue to put their lives at risk and go out on the streets and prove to their own country people that they are meaning to change this dreadful regime once and for all. Okay?
The effect that Iran is having in the Middle East and having throughout not only that region but wider effects, as was explained by some of the colleagues here earlier, has not really gotten out there into, certainly into Australia. And I think that's really important to understand, is that there are domino effects in the things that the Iranian regime is actually doing. But the effects on the Iranian people is in actual fact one of the most critical aspects that we're all here, in this sense, concerned about today. In the Australian Labor Party, our saying is in unity is strength. And one of the things that I see through my discussions today and previously is that what people are doing here, and the movement here, is very united, very committed, because it's them and their families that have been affected in Iran over a long period of time. And so it is important that we continue, and the international community continue, to support them and their protests, and certainly to try and make sure that after the regime falls, whenever that may be, that the support is there to... I've learnt a lot over the last day or two, and I just want to say strength to your arm. I wish the movement, but I wish the people of Iran the best for their future, because they are suffering like they really are suffering. So thank you very much.
Dear ladies and gentlemen, first of all, thank you for inviting me here. As the Vice President of the Norwegian Parliament, I am happy to be here to support the fight for a free and democratic Iran, where fundamental human rights and democratic should be carried out. I was a young boy in 1979-1980 when Ayatollah Khomeini changed Iran into a country with no freedom of speech and suppression of women. I see Iranian women in Norway still being suppressed of this politics. I want you to know that Norway fully supports Iran in the fight for a free and democratic country, and that you should all support the 10-point list of Madame Rajavi for that one time to happen. I have the list here, and I've read it today, and I think it can bring a lack of freedom to Iran. We cannot accept the way the Iran regime is treating people today. Iran is a beautiful country with beautiful people who deserves to live in freedom and democracy. If we stay strong together, this is an aim which can be reached. So once again, before you sleep tonight, please read the Madame Rajavi's plan for the future Iran. The time is right for an uprising for regime change, and when so many people are gathered here in this matter, hopefully we can stay strong together and make an impact so that Iran in the future will become a better society for all people living there. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you very much, co-chairpersons, distinguished guests. The Iranian people have long decided that enough is enough. Despite the brutal hostility of the regime, they have taken to the streets to express their dissent and organize mass strikes to protest against their tyrant. The brave Iranian people are a testimony, once again, that yes, sticks can break their bones, but not their determination. Khamenei's regime is perhaps in the worst crisis ever. It is vulnerable, and to survive, it needs international support, predominantly from Europe. The fragile position of this regime is further compromised by the massive uprisings of the Iranian people, who are clearly showing that they are ready to pay the ultimate price, that is their own lives, in their plea for democracy. I once read that if you find yourself in a corner with a deadly poisonous snake, you do not set up a committee to discuss the snake poison, but instead you proceed to kill the snake immediately. Appeasement of the Iranian regime is even more unacceptable, inhumane, deceitful, and immoral because it only serves to prolong the suffering of the Iranian people. Time for further talks and appeasement for this regime has long passed their expiry date. It is now time for drastic action. The plea of the Iranian people has to be heard loud and clear, not only by the brutal Iranian regime itself, but also by the entire world. It is a justified outcry that the world can no longer ignore. I sincerely believe that as parliamentarians, we need to speak louder. We need to take more drastic actions. We need to forcefully push our governments to act. Thank you.
Illustri convenuti, onorevoli colleghe e colleghi e prestigiosi rappresentanti del Consiglio nazionale della resistenza iraniana. Devo confessarvi il mio grande compiacimento di essere qui, onorato dell'invito ed anche ammirato della precisa e puntuale organizzazione che denota, oltre che passione per il proprio impegno, una granitica unità di intenti che, basandosi sul deciso perseguimento della democrazia, non può che trovare larga base solidale e condivisione anche in chi, come il sottoscritto, è nuovo alle dinamiche politiche di un affascinante e martoriato paese come l'Iran. Il futuro iraniano, racchiuso nel piano in 10 punti della presidente Rajavi, non può che trovarmi d'accordo. Il forte momento di protesta che questo 2018 in Iran non ha soluzione di continuità deve suggerire un nuovo approccio delle libere democrazie, come l'Italia e come la Francia, di cui ho l'onore di partecipare e che ci ospita. Dell'Iran che è il bazar, fulcro dell'economia iraniana, che oggi, come 40 anni fa, occupa un ruolo cruciale. La democrazia è un diritto che nessuno dovrà negare mai al popolo iraniano. Mai. Grazie.